What's up, everybody? Nico Dwyer back for the 10th inning here with another episode of This Day in Sports History. In yesterday's episode, we saw Lou Brock become the 14th member of the 3000 Hit Club. We don't have anyone joining the 3000 Hit Club today, but we do have some Olympic Games to talk about, and we have some PGA Championships to get into. So if y'all enjoy this video, leave a like on it. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Let's get to it. This Day in Sports History. We'll start off today in 1903 in boxing, and James J. Jeffries would win via technical knockout over James J. Corbett in their second meeting in 10 rounds to retain the heavyweight title, and he would also win via knockout in the first round, so Jeffries would go up 2-0. 17 years later, we move up to the 1920 Summer Olympic Games, and they would officially open in Antwerp, Belgium, and this would be the first time the Olympic oath would be voiced and doves would be raised to symbolize peace, plus the Olympic flag would be flown. We go from an opening ceremony at the Olympics to a closing ceremony in the Olympics. In 1932, the 10th edition of the Summer Games would close in Los Angeles, and the USA would win the medal count at 103 total medals, 41 gold, Italy in second at 36 total, 12 gold, France in third with 19 overall, 10 gold. 4 years later, we move to the Berlin Olympics in 1936, and in basketball, the United States would defeat Canada in the inaugural men's gold medal game, get ready for this, 19-8. This would be the US's first of 15 overall gold medals at the Olympics in basketball. Then in swimming at those Olympics, Americans Adolf Kiefer and Al Van Veeg would go 1-2 in the 100-meter backstroke. 3 years later, we moved to Major League Baseball in 1939, and we would see the first night game in Chicago at Comiskey Park. The White Sox would end up defeating the Browns 5-2, and it would be about 40 more years until we would see the Cubs finally have a night game. Move up to another Olympic Games closing, this time in 1948 in London. The USA would win the medal count at 84 total medals, 38 gold, Sweden in second, 44 total, 16 gold, and France in third at 29 total, 10 gold medals. Move up 10 years and go back to Major League Baseball in 1958. Vic Power, who would have a total of 3 stolen bases on the season, would become the first player in 70 years to steal home twice in one game. That's right, he got 2 of his 3 stolen bases in one game, and they were both stealing home. And his second stolen base of the game would actually be a 10th inning stolen base, which would give the Indians a walk-off 10-9 victory over the Tigers. 2 years later in 1960 at the F1 World Drivers' Championship, Jack Brabham would claim his second consecutive championship after winning the Portuguese Grand Prix. Back to Major League Baseball in 1971, Bob Gibson would no-hit the Pittsburgh Pirates in the Cardinals' 11-0 victory. Gibson on the day flat-out dominant, obviously, 9 innings pitched, 3 walks allowed, 10 strikeouts in the no-hitter. 6 years later at the 1977 PGA Championship, Lanny Wadkins with a score of 6 under would win his only major title in the event's first sudden death playoff with Gene Littler. 5 years later, we moved right back to Major League Baseball, and Philadelphia Phillies first baseman Pete Rose, with his 12,365th trip to the plate, would pass Hank Aaron to become the all-time leader at career at-bats. 5 years later in 1987, Oakland Athletics' Mark McGwire would set the home run rookie record at 39 a couple days after he tied the record, en route to the then record 49. We moved back to the PGA Championship, this time in 1988, and Jeff Sluman, with a score of 12 under, would win his only major, 3 strokes ahead of runner-up Paul Azinger. Stay at the PGA Championship 6 years later in 1994, Nick Price, with a score of 11 under, would win his second PGA Championship, 6 strokes ahead of runner-up Corey Pavin, to win his third and final major. Then at the British Women's Open in 94, Liselette Newman, with a score of 8 under, would win 3 strokes ahead of runner-up Annika Sorenstam. This was the first time that the British Open would be a LPGA-sanctioned event. 4 years later in 1998, in Major League Baseball, Rickey Henderson's stolen base in the first inning against the Tigers would give him 50 stolen bases on the season at 39 years old, becoming the oldest player to ever record 50 stolen bases in one season. He would end that year with 66 stolen bases. 6 years later in 2004 at the 04 Olympics in Athens, at the 4x100 meter freestyle relay on the women's side, the Australian team would take home the gold in a world record time of 3 minutes 35.94 seconds. this would stand for 2 years. Also in those Olympics, American Michael Phelps in the 400 meter individual medley would swim 4 minutes 8.26 seconds, a world record that would stand until 2007. But Phelps currently has the record that he broke in 2008. Speaking of 2008, we now move up to those Olympics. In swimming, Japanese swimmer Kosuke Kitajima would repeat his Athens 100-200 meter breaststroke double, winning the 200 meter in Olympic record 2 minutes 7.64 seconds. Then in the women's 4x200 meter freestyle relay, the Australian team would swim in a world record 7 minutes 44.31 seconds, taking home the gold, but this record would end up being broken in the World Championships next year. Move over to the 100 meter freestyle, and French swimmer Alain Bernard would win in 47.21 seconds to claim the gold. 3 years later, we move back to the PGA Championship in 2011, and Keegan Bradley, with a score of 8 under, would win his first major title by 1 stroke after a 3-hole aggregate playoff with Jason Duffner to win his only major. Now we move up to the 2016 Olympics, and there's a lot to talk about. We'll start off in the 100 meter dash, and Jamaican Usain Bolt would win at 9.81 seconds, the first man to win the event 3 times. Then in the 400 meter, South African Wade van Niekerk would set a world record 43.03 seconds to win the gold. Move over to the women's marathon now, and Kenya's Jemima Sumgong would win with a time of 2 hours 24 minutes 4 seconds. Over to cycling now, in an all-British final, Jason Kenney would end up besting teammate Callum Skinner to win the gold. Then in the inaugural men's individual golf gold medal, Great Britain's Justin Rose, with a score of 16 under, would win 2 strokes ahead of Sweden's Henrik Stenson to win the gold. Finally in those games, in tennis, Great Britain's Andy Murray would win the men's tennis singles gold medal, besting Juan Martín del Potro 7-5, 4-6, 6-2, 7-5. Finally in 2016, at the US Senior Open on the men's side, Gene Sowers, with a score of 3 under, would win 1 stroke ahead of runner-up Miguel Angel Jimenez and Billy Mayfair. We end today's video off in 2019, and Stephanie Frappart would become the first woman to referee a major match in European men's football history at the UEFA Super Cup, which saw Chelsea going up against Liverpool. So there you have it. That's what happened on this day in sports history. If I left anything out, I do apologize. If I mispronounced any names, I also apologize. But I'll see everybody tomorrow for Nick Dwyer and the 10th inning. See ya.